Last week, the Senate Armed Services Committee, as we were just discussing, advanced a version of the National Defense Authorization Act that includes language to enroll women in the Selective Service System, often referred to as the draft. Now, several Republicans in both chambers of Congress spoke out against this immediately, and the backlash has grown since. Some Senate observers now believe it's possible that the growing discontent could lead Senate Democrat leader Chuck Schumer to stall bring the NDAA to the Senate floor until after the November election. Of course, that misses the deadline of the new fiscal year. Joining me now to discuss this is Tom Kilgannon. He's the president of Freedom Alliance, an organization that provides support to America's military families and advocates for strong national defense. In 2017, he was appointed by then Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, to the National Commission on Military, National, and Public Service, which conducted a full review of the military selective service process. Tom, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Tony, it's always great to be on. Thank you.
This has become one of those recurring issues. The left never goes away. They never drop it. They just keep doing it until it's kind of like a kid just pestering his parents until he wears them out. I think this is back again. It's going to keep coming back. How do we stop this?
Well, Tony, you're right. It does keep coming back, and it has been for a number of years now. And it's a problematic provision to have women register with Selective Service because, as you said, that is conscription for war. And we need to do everything we can to get this out of the final version. I think what makes this version unique in this year for the National Defense Authorization Act is that you really have two provisions. You have one on the Senate side, as you described, which requires women to register with Selective Service. And on the House side, you have a provision in which young men would automatically be registered with Selective Service. So if these two provisions come together and stay in the bill until the end in the final version, what you would have is both young men and women 18 to 26 years old automatically being registered with Selective Service, which means for these females, they wouldn't even know about it because they have no history or tradition of doing this. And many of them would not even know that they are signed up for the draft until they get that draft notice.
Tom, many that are advocating for this say, well, we have to have it because of the military's recruiting woes. But the military is having recruiting woes because of policies like this that are trying to blur the gender lines and using the military not to fight and win wars, but as a place of social experimentation.
Yeah, there's no question about it that, in his first months as Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin committed what I think is one of the worst acts of malpractice that any Secretary of Defense has ever done, which is when he claimed that the entirety of the Defense Department, all the military, were extremists. And that and many other provisions have kept young men and women from enlisting and signing up. These last few years have been the worst in recruitment for the all-volunteer force. But you have a similar dynamic taking place with registration for Selective Service. So what is happening is you've got two main ways that Selective Service signs young men up. One is through the applications for driver's licenses at the state level. And over the last 25 years, young men have chosen not to get driver's licenses by a wide margin. So the number of young men aged 16 to 19 who are getting driver's licenses has declined from 64% to 40% in the last 25 years. Similarly, the other main way that registration with Selective Service is done is through federal financial aid. And right now, over the last 10 years, you have 1 million fewer young men who are going to college. That means 1 million fewer young men signing up for federal financial aid. And so that is part of what's driving this on the part of the Senate and House Democrats who are putting these automatic and female provisions in the NDAA.
Where are these guys? How are they getting around if they're not getting the driver's license?
Well, I think, bicycles and
they're letting their girlfriends drive?
the Biden economy, the high cost of a vehicle, the high cost of insurance, the high cost of
Well,
gasoline
yeah, they're
is
pushing,
impacting their decisions.
yeah, pushing buses and electric transportation, probably scooters or something. But when you look at the decline in young men serving in the military, I mean, disproportionately, they come from the South. They come from conservative red states. And when you're pushing all of this woke ideology on them, they're saying, hey, wait a minute. That's not what I want. I mean, I've talked to many of them. I've talked to many of their parents. And I think this is what's driving our decline in large part, is that men don't want any part of this.
Yeah, and there's an article out today, Tony, that indicated just that, which is that the enlistment rates for females has remained steady over the last 5 years or so, but the number of men who are enlisting has gone down for exactly those reasons. You have the woke policies, you have the social indoctrination in the military, and it's causing real problems. And I think one of the things I want to make clear is, uh, look, we're all about voluntary service.
Right,
Um,
right,
but what young women need to understand is that this provision that we're talking about has nothing to do with them going down to the recruiter's office and making an informed, voluntary decision to serve their country. What
right.
this has to do is the federal government saying to them, we are going to require that you serve your country. So if this goes through, they lose their voice, they lose their choice,
Yeah.
their body, and young women will no longer be vessels for new life. They'll be instruments of war. And that's not the way our society has typically adjudicated this issue.
Tom Kilgannon, great point. Thank you so much for joining us today.